Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today I'll try to read Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 37 for the pleasure of my Guru Maharaj and the devotees. And this is yet another beautiful chapter, and everyone has been, every devotee prior to me has spoken very wise words on all the previous verses. So I will try to add to that with the text 37. Yudhisthirastat parisarpanam buddha purecha rashtracha grehe tata tamni vibhavaya lobharanta jimha himasanti adharma chakram gamnaya prayadhat. I'll read one more time. Yudhisthras parisarpanam buddha purecha rashtracha grehe tatha tamni vibhavaya lobha nirta jimha himasanadhi adharma chakram gamnaya prayadhat. I'll read the English translation. Yudhisthira, Maharaj Yudhisthira, that, parisarpanam, expansion, buddha, thoroughly experienced, pure, in the capital, cha, as also, rashtrare, in the straight, cha, and, grihe, at home, tatha, as also, atmani, in person, vibhaya, viha, observing, lobha, avarice, anirtha, untruth, chimha, diplomacy, himsana, adi, violence and envy, adharma, irreligion, chakram, a vicious cycle, gamnai, for departure, prayardhat, dressed himself accordingly. Translation. Maharaj Yudhisthira was intelligent enough to understand the influence of the age of Kali, characterized by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital, state, home, and among individuals. So he wisely prepared himself to leave home, and he dressed accordingly. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The present age is influenced by the specific qualities of Kali. Since the days of the Battle of Kurukshetra about 5,000 years ago, the influence of the age of Kali began manifesting. And from authentic scriptures, it is learned that the age of Kali is still to run on for 427,000 years. The symptoms of Kali Yuga, as mentioned above, namely avarice, falsehood, diplomacy, cheating, nepotism, violence, and all such things are already in vogue. And no one can imagine what is going to happen gradually with further increase of influence of Kali till the day of annihilation. We have already come to know that the influence of the age of Kali is meant for godless, so-called civilized man. Those who are under the protection of the Lord have nothing to fear from this horrible age. Maharaj Yudhisthira was a great devotee of the Lord, and there was no necessity of his being afraid of the age of Kali. But he preferred to retire from active household life and prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. The Pandavas are eternal companions of the Lord, and therefore they are more interested in the company of the Lord than anything else. Besides that, being an ideal king, Maharaj Yudhisthira wanted to retire just to set an example for others. As soon as there is some young fellow to look after the household affairs, one should at once retire from family life to uplift oneself to spiritual realization. One should not rot in the dark well of household life till one is dragged out by the will of Yamaraja. Modern politicians should take lessons from Maharaj Yudhisthira among voluntary retirement from active life and should make room for younger generation. Also, retired old gentlemen should take lessons from him and leave home for spiritual realization before forcefully dragged away to meet death. Om Agyanyatimирandasya Gyananjanaya Shalakya Chakshur Ulmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Panchakalpurpasya Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitatnam Pavanbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. As I was meditating on this verse and reflecting what is the key messages from this verse. So there are 5 reasons Srila Prabhupada describes why Yudhisthira decided to retire. And so the first one is that Yudhisthira was concerned about age of Kali and all the deteriorating values that are described here, like avarice, adharma, irreligion. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was Dharam Raja, so he could see the opposite of that, which is irreligion. Avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital state and home. So that's the first reason that Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport. So that is the advent of Kali. The second, of course, was Yudhisthira being Dharmaraj. He wanted to do the proper execution of Varnashrama Dharma, which is to retire in a timely fashion and then just kind of come out of the orbit of the household life and with an escape velocity go to the next phase, which is the Varnashrama Dharma. And then, of course, the third reason is, Prabhupada describes is that also to set an example for all of us, for all the gentlemen, all the politicians, all the householders, that there is a right time to retire. And those were the 3 reasons, but the most important reason was that Pandavas and Maharaj Yudhisthira being eternal companions of the Lord, Maharaj Yudhisthira was feeling an intense separation from Krishna. And that's probably the very important reason, because Maharaj Yudhisthira spent, as we know, most of his life in and out of the direct company or direct remembrance of Krishna. And then the 5th reason, which is a part of the next verse, is that Maharaj Yudhisthira's grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, was fully trained to pick up the reins and serve the larger community from there. So these are the 5 reasons described by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. But at the same time, I was meditating on this, that Maharaj Yudhisthira was running the kingdom very well. As we saw in the prior verses, there was peace, there was prosperity, there was spiritual advancement for people. And Maharaj Yudhisthira had earned this title of the ideal king after long struggles before that, with all the things that happened in the Mahabharata. But then when the right moment came, Maharaj Yudhisthira was not only able to sense that it is the right time for him to retire, but he had the right intuition that it is a right thing to do. Because when we think about it, whenever people make a decision or make a change, it's not only what they know, but also, but actually it's less to do with what they know, but more to do with how they feel about the situation. And then that change occurs. In the case of Maharaj Yudhisthira, not only he was able to sense that the time has come, but also he had the right feeling that this is the right time. So for him, the decision was very instant. And of course, Srila Prabhupada says it is wisely prepared. So it was a wise and instant decision. So it was not like Maharaj Yudhisthira wanted to call a council and the parliament and say, okay, this has happened, what should I do? Or let me sleep on it for a week and figure out how it's going to transition, how I'm going to retire, and what that future life would look like. It was none of that. It was like a instant and wise decision is how it is described in this verse. And so I was meditating on it, that how that instant and wise decision could have been achieved. Because Maharaj Yudhisthira was always doing devotional service as a king. Even when he was a king, he was keeping Krishna in the center. So as we just draw a parallel in the material life, so when people decide to retire in the material life, they would look at, okay, do I have enough, in the case of US, or even in the other parts of the world, do I have enough 401k? Do I have enough savings? Do I have enough social security and things like that? So that is the material aspect of this. The spiritual aspect of this is that there is a 401k in our spiritual life as well. And that 401k is, or the savings account, or whatever we want to call it, is achieved through dedicated, daily, uninterrupted sadhana and service throughout the life. So when we accumulate that savings account, then there are instances in time that we are able to make the right decisions. And a very nice link to this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam is in Bhagavad Gita 10.10, where Lord Krishna says that those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And in this verse, the word constantly is very important. It's people who are constantly devoted, meaning there is a constant accumulation of devotional service in our savings account. And that's when Krishna gives the understanding to come to him. And now in the case of Maharaj Yudhisthira, at one level, Maharaj Yudhisthira knew he had been in the company of the Lord, so he could feel the intense separation from the Lord. But at another level, to be able to quickly make that decision and quickly and wisely make that decision when the time comes, to be able to feel it, was the result of all the spiritual savings he had accumulated throughout his life as a king and as a crown prince, and being a Dharamraj and knowing what the right thing to do, right dharma is at the right moment. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was able to internalize his education. He internalized it. So there is not only that he knew what the dharma is, he practiced what the dharma is, he internalized the dharma, and then when the time came, then that decision was available to him. So what can we learn from this? I'm talking about myself. We are constantly, and I'm in householder life right now, but we are constantly in our comfort zone. And to come out of this comfort zone, we need to know a higher purpose, that there is this life, a householder life, but then as we transcend from this, there is a higher there is a life consisting of higher purpose. And so it is not a life of, so we are actually going and raising us. There is an opportunity where we can rise above the matter, above the householder life in due course of time, with our mind, with our body, with our words, with our devotion. So it is a verse, it's one of the words where that decision and that decision to retire, to retreat. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was not running away, but he was actually making that change for the higher purpose. So that is what the important lesson first for me is, that when we think about retreating and retiring, to be able to sense that the time has come to be able to make that decision for the higher purpose. So that was one realization. And then the other was that there is this whole aspect of how we practice our devotional life. It's not just about when we do a change, what can we do differently, what we can do something new on our best days. It's also what values that are taught in our devotional service we can stick to on our worst days. So that is where the true test of the yogis come, is what are we able to stick to, hang on to? What values that are dear to us that we can hang on to? That's when we are tested. How do we pass that test of austerities, that test of difficulties? And that becomes more important than what we do things on our best day. So one of the books that have come out is Atomic Habits. So it is our atomic habits in our devotional service, daily what we do, daily what we practice, daily what we preach, daily what kind of knowledge what kind of books we choose to read, daily who we like to associate with, and that association is not just association with the other souls and people, but the association of the books, the association of the teachings, the association of the music, the association of everything that goes into our mind. And what we are able to practice every day. So that accumulation, that savings account is extremely important, because this is when the right time comes. It's not that if we don't do those practices daily and improve ourselves, then we should not expect that there is going to be a flip of a switch that's going to suddenly occur and we are able to say, okay, now the time has come, I'm going to retire, or this time has come, I'm going to advance in spiritual life and dedicate my 100% of my time to the devotional service. So there is that flip of switch doesn't come if we are not accumulating every minute those savings in our spiritual account. So So that was one of the reflections for me, was that it all accumulates on a daily, hourly, every minute basis, that we are able to then, when the time comes, we can utilize that spiritual account for higher purpose. And so that was the one realization. The other one was, the other realization I had was that how Maharaj Yudhisthira dressed. So the shloka talks about dressing accordingly and wisely preparing himself to retire. Of course, that was a different Dwapar Yuga, where people would retire to the forest, and we have seen in the case of Dhritarashtra, he had to be motivated, and he was, of course, in the company of Maharaj Yudhisthira, so he had to be motivated by Vidura to, as we saw in the prior chapters, to retire and give up the householder life. And in the case of Maharaj Yudhisthira, that wasn't the case, because Maharaj Yudhisthira could see that the time has come. In our Kali Yuga, there's no there is no reason for us to retire to the forest and leave our home. We can actually continue our, as Prabhupada has recommended many times, we can continue our devotional service, devotional life at our home. It's just how we transcend and our consciousness and devote more and more time, more and more percentage of our time to the Varnashrama Dharma and helping others succeed in their devotional life while spending more time in their devotional life. So while Maharaj Yudhisthira dressed accordingly, and then he prepared to go to the forest. But in this case, we can also, other than literally dressing appropriately, we can also prepare by slowly planning for the future, by slowly, because like I said before, it's not going to be a flip of a switch, but by slowly making plans to advance in our spiritual life and follow the Varnashrama Dharma. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was at a much different level. He could prepare instantly. Not that he hadn't thought about it before, he hadn't prepared before, but he could quickly execute that plan. But we also have a lesson to take. I also have a lesson to take as I was reflecting. I'm talking about more myself, that how prepared I am, and I was reflecting, if I were to face that, how much planning I have done, and then I tried to look, do I have a written down plan how and when I would give up my householder life in this Kali Yuga. And I discovered that I have work to do. I have to write down many things and prepare for and write down that plan. Of course, Krishna's plan is going to be the ultimate, but it can supersede or trump my plan. But I have to show the right intention by making that plan. Now, whether Krishna chooses to override it is a different matter. So, as I was reflecting on this verse, is one of the key takeaways I'm going to do is write down that plan for myself. Is there one, when, how, and what? And I have a lot of work to do myself. So, as I'm not qualified to talk to this verse, but for some reason or the other, I have been chosen to speak about this verse. Therefore, there was a lot of self-reflection on my part that Am I ready? What's the plan? And if I haven't even written down that plan yet. But it made me think I should start thinking about it and writing down that plan as well. So that's one thing I will take away from this verse is because words matter, the plans matter, even though Krishna's plans are ultimate. And writing down will force me to think. Writing down will force me to commit. Writing down will force me to think about some additional vows I need to take to go into that Varnashrama dharma. So that was another reflection is that, yes, where is my plan? And so like I said, I feel unqualified to actually specifically talk about this verse because this is a very, even though it may seem a natural evolving story in time, but this verse was very eye-opening for me myself, and to make me realize that I have work to do to make plans, and so I don't feel that we as devotees, we don't need to come to a point where we will not be dragged to death by Yamaraj. That we are fortunate in that. So there is no dragging. We'll face. We want to be facing death gracefully and fearlessly, in remembrance of Krishna. So there is, of course, there is no dragging for devotees, but at the same time, we want to keep the higher purpose and thinking beyond the immediate future in mind. So that was the other realization for me. And then the third topic that the third reflection that I was having is that while householders, or in this case, Maharaj Yudhisthira should give up his household life, but very importantly, he had trained his grandson. Of course, his grandson, his son, or Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu, wasn't there in this case, but he had trained his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, in every aspect of spiritual life. So as we hold and pass over that, pass down the baton, training our children in the spiritual life is important, whether or not, of course, whether or not we choose to retire, but those children, as we know, are Krishna's property, and we are entrusted. Krishna has put us in a position of trust that we would train our children accordingly. So Maharaj Parikshit was perfectly trained to execute, and whatever Maharaj Yudhisthira, that vast kingdom he has established, to perfectly execute all the teachings, to internalize the education Maharaj Yudhisthira had given. So as devotees, so I was reflecting on that also as devotees. This verse is a reminder to us that every moment, every day, our children should be trained, because we are put in that position of trust for them to carry on their spiritual advancement, to take the most of this very unique, precious human life, which is like kind of winning the lottery of the species. So those were the three realizations personally for me. I will just summarize. One of them was every day matters, every moment matters, every moment matters how we practice our devotional service, association, knowledge, uninterrupted sadhana and service. The second is that I need to be better prepared and write down those plans for future and not leave it to chance. And third is that how our children should be spiritually advanced, because we are put in that position of trust. So I will pause here. I know it's Saturday. I can go on a little bit longer, but I will more invite discussion from the devotees. If anything I said incorrectly, I do beg for forgiveness, and please feel free to correct me, as well as if devotees have any questions, reflections, I'll welcome a two-way conversation as well.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, this is not a question. Wonderful, talk by you. But I joined a little late, so when you were saying the 5 reasons for retirement by Yudhisthira Maharaj, I missed that portion. Could you just summarize those 5 points again for me?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. So the first was that Maharaj Yudhisthira could see the age of Kali, that people were more greedy, more violent. There was irreligion coming up, and Maharaj Yudhisthira, being Dharmaraj, could see that irreligion very clearly, because that's contrasting to him. So age of Kali. The second is that being Dharmaraj, he wanted to do the proper execution of Varnashram Dharma. And he knew that there is a time and time to retire. And third was to set an example for generations to come. That, yeah, it is possible to retire as a king. And you don't, whether it's even for a king, it's possible to retire, leave alone a regular householder. If a king can retire, then householder should retire as well. And he was not clinging on to that kingdom and power and whatever luxuries he had. And the fourth and the most very important reason was that he was feeling intense separation from Krishna, being in full knowledge that he was a companion of Krishna, and like Arjuna described in the prior verses, that Krishna left this particular world, and on a physical platform, of course, he doesn't leave anyone, any devotee. He's there in every atom and every particle of every particular world. But in that particular form, he left that particular world. So he was feeling intense separation from Krishna, and that was probably the most important reason. And lastly, the fifth reason was, Prabhuji, that and that's part of the next verse tomorrow, is his grandson was fully trained in executing of the duties as a king, who will lead with the great example of spiritual understanding and help citizens, whoever wanted to prosper in the path of spiritual life. So those were the 5 reasons, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was so nice. I do have 2 questions, but I would want to let others speak up. If nobody else has it, then I'll ask them.
So Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I have one. Can I go now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Prabhu, so this is one of the Bhagavatam lectures I heard from ISKCON sannyasi. So he was, he was telling that, work doing stocks, right? Like trading stocks is it is like gambling, right? What the Pandavas did, and so he was saying we should not do it. Okay, just drawing on those lines, and people do invest in retirement, 401k, and all that in stocks, mutual funds, which also have a percentage of stocks based on their age and all that. So just how much of that policy from Veda that he told, we have to actually implement. Because I didn't have an opportunity to ask a question because I was not part of that congregation. So, and I was not prepared to ask that question either. So just any thoughts, on those lines, how strict, how strict is the Vedas about, because this one is, we are not actively trading any stock, but at the same time, there is some aspect of stock in our retirement planning, right? For most of the people that are in the US.
Yeah. So great question, Prabhuji. So I have reflected on this question. So I will just share some of my understandings, and I like any discussion on that as well if I say anything incorrectly. So there is an aspect of so there are two or three things here. There is an aspect of speculative individual trade of one particular stock. So which has a very high volatility. It can is speculative. It's going to go up or down by vast. It can go up and down very in a big way. So, and that is a sort of a gamble. If we just blindly trade stock, not blindly, but if we say, okay, this stock has a high potential to go up, but it could also go down, because in the gambling also, you have a high chance, you have a chance of winning big or a chance of losing big. So winning and losing big is what I mean. So if we do that kind of speculation and trade, that of course is violating the. My understanding is that's violating the regulatory principle of gambling, because that is gambling. But if so, in our 401k, for example, we don't have individual stocks. 401ks, at least the company-sponsored ones, they don't have individual stocks, high risk. So that is more of a very diversified, different stocks that are expected over time to grow the money to keep up with inflation. So when we retire, then we can withdraw from that money. So the history, if we go back in a very diverse, look at the very diverse portfolio of stocks, like in a 401k, there will be some energy stock, 2%, 5% technology stocks, 3% oil stocks, 4% automotive stocks, and 10% retail stocks, and some international stocks. So that is, in a way, because it's diversified, and history of hundreds plus years has proven that it gives an average return of, let's say, 4 to 6%. It grows, so we can keep up with inflation. We don't want money when we retire to significantly reduce in value, so we can't sustain. So that is more because in the free capital markets, banks don't pay high interest. US doesn't have high interest. So in that case, it's just to keep up with inflation, so we can have that cost standard of living. So that is not necessarily a speculative trading, because we know over the last 100 years, this portfolio of very diverse portfolio has grown 4 to 6% on average per year. that's not speculative because we know it only goes up over a long period of time. But if we, that's my understanding of our investment of 401k stock. But if we trade in one stock, which is more volatile, and if we then do it like on a speculative basis, and we look at it every day or every week, and then we trade it after 6 months, that is more gambling, because one particular stock can go up and down, and that is more speculative. So that's how I understand it, Prabhuji. That what is our consciousness when we invest in stock? Is our consciousness that I'm going to trade in one or two individual stocks and then hope to gain an big upside, or I'm going to just leave it over a long period of time? I know it grows 4 to 5%, and just to keep up with cost of inflation. So it's more about consciousness, in what consciousness we invest in stock, and how much risk we are taking with that. So that's my understanding, Prabhuji, on that stock thing. But I welcome your inputs as well, or anyone's who has them, if I said anything incorrectly, or if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I mean, the takeaway I got from your explanation is, if you're planning that portfolio in such a way that it's not out of avarice, right, and just for inflation purpose, and not do not do any individual stocks that should and just purely from keeping up with inflation perspective, it should be okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. That was my point.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you for asking and helping and give me the opportunity to talk about it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Looks like there is no other topics discussion. So I want to go back. I said I had 2 questions. So of the 5 reasons that was given for Yudhishthira's retirement, the first one was the symptoms of Kali is being extensively seen. See, for a true leader, when the challenge is there, and when he has the experience to do the right things, he's the one who should stay back and who should be doing, what it needs to fight back the effects of Kali. However, in this case, like Yudhishthira, at least on the face of it, it looks like Yudhishthira is giving up the fight, handing it over to his grandson Parikshit, and he's going away. I want to contrast this with Bhishma Dev, for example, and that's my second question. Bhishma Dev, is like 4 generations old. He doesn't, he has been seeing all these things for a very long time, but he doesn't retire. Instead, what he does is, even at the fag end of his life, he's fighting like a warrior. He's a Vaishnava. And then, he ends up giving his life on the battlefield. So how do we understand these contrasts and what to make out of these 2 things?
Yeah, Prabhuji, great. Thank you, Prabhuji, very much. The first question you asked, I was also reflecting on that. That question also came to my mind when I was reflecting on this. So thank you for asking that. So as far as first question is concerned, Prabhuji, my understanding is that, yes, as Dharamraj, you would think that he had the most equity to fight back the adharma. If he had stayed, you could, at one level, you could think he could actually fight back the adharma. And so one main reason I can think of why Maharaj Yudhisthira instantly retired, he had full faith, confidence that his grandson is ready. He had 100% confidence that his grandson is ready. So that might have been the key reason he said, okay, it's not like, okay, I'm going to do a 3-month transition and let's see how Maharaj Yudhisthira perform, Maharaj Parikshit perform, and then I'll retire. So I'm going to do a transition. It was not anything like that, because he had full confidence, like 100.00% confidence that Maharaj Parikshit is ready. So that might have been the reason why it was not running away. It was like, okay, I have it covered. And so I can do the higher purpose and do my spiritual realization. In the case of Bhishma Dev, he didn't have that confidence in those 4 generations, because he, if you go back to Vichitravirya's tenure, Vichitravirya was not even living up to the crown princely standards. He was doing all kind of materialistic things, not on a spiritual path. And then then on a temporary basis, Maharaj Pandu came, and then Maharaj Yudhisthira came. So Maharaj Pandu, of course, left. Then Yudhisthira didn't give him that confidence either. And actually, at one point, when Maharaj Yudhisthira was appointed the crown prince, at that time, there was that thought in Bhishma Dev's mind that now Yudhisthira is a crown prince, maybe I can retire. But then my understanding is that when he went to his mother, Ganga, to say that is my time right, and she persuaded him no, because there is more to come in future. So you have to see that actually, especially there were kings, there were Gandhar kings like Shakuni trying to spoil Maharaj Yudhisthira's, king, crown prince and other plans. So Mother Ganga at that time said, okay, wait for this to unfold a little bit more. And then, of course, when Duryodhana became a king, he couldn't leave and retire. And ultimately, when he saw on the 10th day of the war that Krishna is with Arjuna, and of course he could see that it's not going to be possible as long as Krishna is there. It's not going to be possible for him to defeat Arjuna. Now, if Krishna wasn't there, he could have defeated Arjuna. But then when he saw that this war is pretty much in Pandava's hands, and Kauravas are vanquished, are going to get vanquished, and Krishna is there. At that time, he said, okay, now I can give up I can retire. Of course, he was Ichha Mrityu, he had that boon. So he actually waited and got that 100 until, even in the case of Bhishma Dev, he got that 100.00% confidence that the war is for Arjuna to win. Now Krishna is there, and he came to that conclusion already during the first 9 days that he cannot defeat Arjuna because Krishna picked up his weapon. So at that time, only when he became 100.00% confident, he retired. So that's how I understand this. Maharaj Yudhisthira also had full confidence in Maharaj Parikshit, and Bhishma Dev had full confidence in Krishna being there and carrying Arjuna through.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for clarifying it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for asking these questions. That are really profound questions, Prabhuji. Okay, if no more questions, it's 50 minutes. Then we can close the class. If I said anything wrong, please I beg for forgiveness. Vancha kalpurusya cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.